Nothing happens before a thought. Hey everyone, welcome back to Party of One podcast. If you're new here, hey. If you're not, welcome back. This is a podcast about self-improvement and self-awareness, but I am going to no longer confine myself just to that. I will talk a lot about self-improvement and self-awareness, but could venture off into talking about different things because life is just a series of things that we go through. And I don't want to just confine myself to just talking about one area when life is to be spoken about through different areas. So thank you again for joining me, or welcome if you're new, and let's get into the topic of the episode. Plan your life with good intentions and positive results, but also be open to the fact that it may not work out that way. I'm not shy of this. I mention pretty often in my TikToks and my YouTube videos that I am a woman of God. And for people that are just starting their journey or don't know or are really deep in their journey, for me, a woman of God is just someone who intentionally trusts and knows that God has a bigger and better plan for your life. And although I may be planning steps towards things that I feel like serve towards my purpose, I'm also open to the fact that God could put me in different areas to service other people, other things, and just really being open to being the best that I can as His child. So I'm not going to dive super deep into that today, but just to give a little context. And I think that's why it makes these decisions or these topics a little easier to talk about, because although I continue to grow in my faith, it's not easy. And sometimes there will be people out here that make it seem like it's easy or that it looks easy outside looking in. But just because I decided to follow Jesus does not mean that my life is, any different than the next person. It just means that I'm equipped with the wisdom and the knowledge of knowing that, wow, even though life is tough, I know that it is only a moment in time, because life is only a series of interruptions. And I know that I got God on my side, and so that things can only get better. And if they don't feel like they're getting better right now, it's because I haven't fully understood the assignment. I haven't understood the lesson. And this is character development. And in some way, shape, or form, the situation that I'm going through right now is going to build me for something later in life that's meant to put me in a positive space. I always try to think, try is the key word. Some days I do better than others, so I like to be really real and vulnerable about how I'm acting right now, so that when I get to a point where I no longer act like this, or that the way that I negatively respond, or the way that I don't respond the way I want to right now, I will realize, wow, I've actually grown. And you know that you've grown by the way that you no longer respond to things that you used to. So I just kind of keep that as a reference point for myself. But the point I was making prior to is you're either on the right track or you're delaying your track. You're always on the right path to where you want to see yourself become. But the actions and the decisions that you do daily decide when you get there. Like, if you say, for example, you have a financial goal to have 20K in the bank by this summer. I'm just pulling stuff out of the air right now. But every single day, just because you work downtown, you think, well, a $20 meal, a couple days a week doesn't really hurt me. If anything, I'm being filled up at work. I need to have the food to continue doing the work that I'm doing. That $20 adds up for months. And by the time you get to the summer where your financial goal date is met, you realize the $20 you spent from January to June was half of that 20K. So it's not to say that you can't stop and change those actions so that you can see a result come true quicker, or see a result come true at the time that it's intended to. But it just means that you need to put a little bit more focus on the actions you're doing versus the actions to get to that result, because that will come with time. But how you decide to look at getting to that goal makes a huge difference with how quickly you get there. And the key word isn't quickly getting there, because there's also truth in as quickly as you get there is as quickly as it'll leave you. So be okay with the journey taking a little bit longer, so that the impact shows longevity. It shows that it's there. It shows that you're doing what needs to be done because you decided to take the longer route to build the foundation. It's about intentionality. And it's about being realistic, but also still being delusional enough, thinking I can really be exactly how I see myself. You have to believe it first, though. I will always reiterate that in some way, shape, or form in any of my videos, is that you have to believe it first. That's a reminder to myself too, because as I say this on camera, I feel that right now, but it matters when I'm in the moments where I wouldn't necessarily get there. I have time to stop and think and be in the right space of mind right now. But what about when things are going awry at work? What about when things are kind of all over the place at home? I have to be able to put myself in a state of mind of always having a positive response so that life can positively respond to me. I don't want you guys to ponder and watch a 20-minute video about this. That's the message. That's literally it. Live your life with intentionality. Understand that, nothing happens before a thought. So always put the best pieces of your life in your head first. Because once they're in your head, once you start to believe whatever you're believing, it starts becoming a reality. So that's why you have to make sure that it's as positive as possible, whatever that looks like for you. And I think in the future, I'm going to start talking about some steps that have helped me, or some steps that I'll be starting to implement. If maybe a journey in my life is just taking, a little bit longer for me to understand, maybe it takes doing a little bit more, self-evaluation for me, so anything that I can do to help, I want to be that person, but I also want to be real in my journey. I'm not perfect and I never will be, but just knowing that gives me a sense of happiness. And it gives me a sense of grace in knowing that I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm being intentional about where I want to see myself outside of my mistakes. Stop your thoughts, especially when they're negative, because that's an intrusive one. Long story short, nothing happens before a thought. So be intentional with them. If you guys aren't following Party of One Pod, follow us everywhere on social media and on Apple Podcast. And I'll see you guys in the next video.